Welcome to the Pain Relief Path podcast, where I dive into the vast world of chronic pain with the occasional help from knowledgeable guests from diverse disciplines that impact your chronic pain. I am your host, Dr. Pan Zhang, physical therapist turned chronic pain coach. I'm here to educate, empower, and encourage you to find your path to a pain-free life. Thank you for listening. Enjoy. All right, welcome back to Pain Relief Path. My name is Dr. Pan Zhang, and I am a chronic pain coach. If you are listening to this podcast, it is likely that you are dealing with some sort of chronic pain or chronic illness. And in this podcast, we're going to be talking about how to really make and take more permanent steps forward and to help you really advance on your path to a pain-free life. The first step, and we've talked about this a lot in the past, but I always come back to this topic because goal setting and goal making is so important. And the way you do it and the way you think about going about doing it is even more important than just writing down your goals. So what I want to address today is when people make goals, they don't really think about what it takes to get to that goal. This is what I mean. When you think about, okay, I want to be pain-free in, let's say, a year or 2 years, obviously, you think about what you have to do to be able to get there. Maybe, investing in yourself, investing in your health, committing to some sort of nutrition, exercise program, therapy, coaching, things like that, a coaching program. But what most people don't really think about is what they have to give up or what they have to let go of in their lives to be able to get to that goal. And this is what where a lot of people actually, I don't want to say fail, but this is where a lot of people fail in their goals. This is where the stumbling blocks happen, is people are very ready to make changes and to do things differently, but they don't think about what they have to let go of, both physically, mentally, and emotionally in their own lives. So I want to give you a couple examples. And if any of these things resonate with you, I really want you to think, sit down and think about a goal that you've made maybe time and time again that just has not really come to fruition. Or maybe you always hit the same stumbling block, and what that might mean. And instead of trying to push forward by adding new things, think about things that you might have to let go of, things that you might actually have to stop doing to change in your life to be able to get to that goal. So here's an example that I'd love to put out there. I have a client, had a client, she was doing very well. And then suddenly she came in and for a session, and she said that, nothing is helping. But I'd been working with her for a few months prior to this, and things had been progressing well, slow and steady. It's been very good. And she had been seeing progress and she had been feeling progress. And then suddenly she came in one day and said, this just isn't working for me. I'm not feeling any progress whatsoever. I'm not feeling like anything has changed. These things are still bothering me when I do them. She was having some shoulder issues, long-term shoulder issues. And I just don't think I want to continue. And this was kind of out of the blue, because prior to this, she was positive. She would come into every session saying, what kind of things she was able to do more of, do better with, and then still have limitations. And we were working on those. So took a step back and I asked her, what's really going on here? Because this is the first time that you've really expressed that things aren't working for you, or things aren't progressing for you. So what has happened in the last, 2 or 3 weeks since we last spoke? And turns out that she has been down this road before with other people, other coaches, herself, just trying to get herself back on her feet, where she, makes really, really good progress. And then suddenly something happens. Suddenly it there is a big stress spike in her life. And in the past, it could have been emotional, mental, physical, whether it be a flare up from doing too much too soon, whether it be relationship stress with her husband or with her, close friends or family. And then when those things got to her, then everything felt worse. And that's what happened this time around. This time around, it was a big argument with one of her good friends, and she just did not really know where to go from there. And that stress and that emotional mental strain really pulled her down, and that negativity really affected her outlook, not just on her relationship with her friend, but put more stress and strain on her relationship with her family. And then obviously, because we know that pain is a mind, body, and stories problem, not just a body problem and not just a mind problem, that this started really affecting her pain and her function as well. So, because this has happened multiple times in the past, this is now a pattern. So, what we talked about during that session was, okay, so you've had this issue with this friend, an argument, let's say. So, what have you done in the past when this has happened? And basically, it's just going down in this rabbit hole of stress, anxiety, catastrophizing, things that really just didn't help her. So this time around, we talked about, okay, what can you do differently this time around? This might not be the same situation that you've dealt with before in the past, but you've hit these stumbling blocks before. So what can you do differently this time around versus what you've done before? What can you let go of? What kind of thoughts and processes can you let go of and change this time around so that you can keep taking steps forward and this doesn't push you back and make you so discouraged that you stop going down your path? So we came up with a couple of things. The first one is um, kind of talking it out, either with a friend or family that might not be involved directly into the situation, but then also journaling. And she's one of those people that is very resistant to journaling, and she's not the only one. I get it; it's hard, but when you have that this much emotional mental strain, sometimes it's really, really beneficial to just write down and vent to a page. And I really do, if you are journaling, I really do recommend that you write it down versus typing it out or something like that. If you hate writing, typing is going to be the next best thing, go for it. If you want to rather do like an audio type of journaling where you're talking into your phone and recording it, go for it. But I will say, if you are journaling in either of those last two ways, either typing it out or speaking it out loud to record, make sure you go back and read over it or listen to it, because that is how you're going to get your brain to slow down and really investigate what your thoughts are during this process. When you are writing, the reason why it's so nice to write things down when you're journaling physically is that you can only write as fast as you can. Most people cannot write as fast as they think. So when you're writing things down, you actually have to slow down and examine the ideas and the thoughts that are coming out of your brain. And that is really, really beneficial for a lot of people. And they get to see exactly what they're thinking instead of a jumbled mess of two or three thoughts at a time. To write something down, you have to have one streamlined thought. So journaling was something that we tried, that she is trying now, to kind of get her out of this rut, to pull her back onto the path so she can keep going. And then another thing that we talked about was outside of just general stress management, breathing techniques, things that worked for her in terms of like gentle movement and whatnot. Outside of that, a big thing that we really wanted to focus on is letting go. And this is a big one that a lot of people have a hard time with, is letting go of their story. So in this case, whenever you're in an argument with, whether it be a spouse, a loved one, a friend, a coworker, anybody, the reason why you're in an argument, and I read this somewhere a long time ago, is because you want your story to be right. And usually when you're in an argument with somebody, you want to be the victim. And I don't mean that in a bad way. We've all been there. But next time you're in an argument, really think about what you're arguing about. And I do this with my husband, my poor husband, all the time, where, I am always, when we argue, I'm always the one who is the victim in the situation, right? And he's always the mean, big, bad guy, which he isn't. But I blow things, out of proportion a little bit in my head. Don't tell him I said that, because then he'll take that and run with it. But definitely things start building because there isn't good communication on my end. When I see something, I don't say things right away, or and it just builds and it builds and builds and builds over time, to the point where I have this story built up in my head that I am this victim of this situation. He keeps doing these mean, horrible things, which he doesn't. But it's just a story that I have built up over time in my head. And the argument becomes, well, you're mean and I am the victim. And his argument then becomes, well, no, I'm always the victim because you're always taking this out on me. So you're arguing. When two people argue, it's really, most of the time, it's arguing about who is the bigger victim, who is the bigger loser in the situation. So really take a step back next time when you're in an argument with somebody, or if are in conflict with somebody, and think about, first of all, your story, and second of all, why are you painting yourself to be the victim here? What control do you have over the situation? And if you have control over the situation, what can you do differently to change the situation? In my case, most of the time, it's just better communication with my husband over a longer period of time, instead of, bottling things up and letting things seethe and simmer under the surface until it explodes. That is my big red, yellow flag for my personality. Then making sure that line of communication is always open and honest. So for her, it was the same thing. It's very much, okay, what are you doing in this story? Are you painting yourself to be the victim here? And if you are, what do you feel like you have control of in this situation? And if you have control of these specific things in this situation, what are you going to do with that control? So this is a very much, just helping my client out with dealing and navigating with her own personal arguments and personal stories, but also changing the way and letting go of the story that she tells herself that really builds from this argument to, life is just not fair, to everything's horrible, to my pain is just not going away, everything's bad. And that story just blooms and explodes into just this negativity monster. So for her to really be able to get over this stumbling block and to continue on her path to be able to reach her goals, she needs to understand that she has to let go of telling herself certain stories and certain things. So those are some of the costs to this goal, to the goal that she's setting. And this might be something that you can relate to as well. When was the last time you set a goal and you hit a stumbling block and you felt like you couldn't keep going forward with this, right? And what thing kept you from going forward? Was it your thoughts? Was it the story that you're telling yourself that, listen, I just can't do this anymore because of this, this, and this? Next time that hits you, next time you hit that stumbling block, I would encourage you or challenge you to really write down what things you feel like are keeping you from going forward. Under each of those things, then think about what can you do? What control do you have in each of these situations to be able to keep going forward? And what do you have to change, whether it's a mindset, a physical habit, a something that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. For instance, this is super, super general, but if you are somebody who wants to be able to move more and you're just like, I just don't have the time in the day to do this. Well, what are you willing to give up to make that happen? Are you willing to give up an extra 10 minutes of sleep in the morning to be able to do just a 10-minute slow flow yoga session that you found on YouTube that you can't get in any other time of the day, right? Are you willing to give up, that half hour in the evening where you're watching a TV show, right? Or that hour or two in the evening where you're binging Netflix or watching stuff on social media and relaxing, right? Are you willing to give those things up so that you can make steps towards your goal? So think about that. And I would love to hear from you about these things, and what costs that you're willing to pay to be able to achieve your goals. Again, write this down. It's a great journaling opportunity for you. And, if you hate journaling, don't think of it as journaling. Just think of it as, okay, like a brainstorming session, right? If you are trying to hit a goal and you have come up with these limitations and these blockages of what and why you can't do these things, write it down, brainstorm your way around those blockages, brainstorm your way into a better life and be able to find the path to your pain-free life, right? So I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to message me on Instagram. I am Pain Relief Path, and you can email me at pan@painreliefpath.com. Until next time, I will see you later. Have a fantastic week. Have a good one.